Hey Stix, what are your favorite gacha games right now? Hey Stix, what are your favorite gacha games right now? You know what? I'm gonna take a minute here to answer that question for you. These right here, these are the best gacha games of 2025. These are the definitive gacha games you should be playing right now. Beginning with Arknights. This is arguably the best tower defense gacha game out there. This game has a phenomenal story. It's a little bit convoluted at times, but it has a phenomenal story. It's very strategic, very challenging, sometimes a little too challenging. A friend of mine, Gen, is someone that I actually used to pass certain obstacles I have in it, purely because of the sheer difficulty that the game has. The character models are phenomenal. The voice acting is ridiculously good. There are updates every other week, it seems. This game is just, it is the uncontested reigning champion of the tower defense gacha genre. And they're also developing Arknights Enfield, which is arguably also my most anticipated upcoming gacha game, 2025. Then there is Wuthering Waves, which is probably the game that I covered the most on this channel. Beautiful open world action RPG with the best action combat in the genre, the best or some of the best character models in the genre, phenomenal voice acting. They actually use a European studio for it rather than a North American studio to dub the game, which is really, really cool. The story nowadays is really good. They are one of the best, most passionate, considerate studios out there. They have come a very long way since when they launched, and I have nothing but respect for the studio because of how, just purely how good the studio is to not only its players, but also its content creators. Path to Nowhere is another tower defense gacha game. This is one of two different tower defense gacha games out there. I think that the tower defense genre is a genre that hasn't really been very deeply tapped into. This is I think this right here is a genre that needs more elaboration, more games actively releasing into, because it's an untapped market. There are literally two games in the genre that make over, I don't know, $1 million and that have an immense quality to them. Path to Nowhere is essentially just Arknights, but with 3D character models rather than chibi character models, and a more, I don't necessarily say darker story, but at the same time, it definitely, Arknights is more fun while also being kind of messed up, but Path to Nowhere is just messed up, turned up to 11. Guardian Tales is the exact opposite. Yeah, there are times where it does get a little bit dark, a little bit messed up, but for the most part, this is just a purely satirical take on the old Legend of Zelda games, but with callbacks, throwbacks, Easter eggs to an immense amount of gacha game, or immense amount of RPGs and just video games in general. Unfortunately, this game really doesn't make a lot of money, but this is the only gacha game of its kind, which is genuinely a shame. And it's just a quality that you don't see anywhere else. Its storytelling is phenomenal. It's 10 out of 10 storytelling. The character models are cute. The combat is action. The worlds are fun to explore. They are segregated, instanced worlds, but they're all incredibly enjoyable to actually play through. It's just, this is I would call this a feast. That is essentially what it is. You play it and you see exactly how unique and rare this is. Punishing Gray Raven is, in some people's opinion, the best action gacha game in the genre. And Kudo is pretty well off. You have either Wuwa or Punishing Gray Raven. A lot of people consider one of these two games to be the best action gacha game. So Kudo is sitting here yeah, buddy, yeah, everyone loves the combat in their games. And Punishing Gray Raven is an instanced gacha. So you enter little missions, you do little fights. Great story, great voice acting, very good character models, especially the more recent ones. And yeah, the combat, if you don't like Wuwa's combat, then you'll love Punishing Gray Raven's combat, because they are the two best out there. Then we have NIKKE, which admittedly does not have very great combat. It does take some strategy and some manual play. This is my main gacha game, the one gacha game I've never missed logging in for a single day. I was hospitalized and I woke up from stasis, essentially, and I logged in, did my dailies, and then went back into stasis for another 23 hours, and then woke up the next day just to do my dailies again. And you know, but this game is just, like, you unless you played this game, you'd probably perceive it to be just that gooner idle game. And I understand why you'd think that, but it is just so much more. Like, yeah, you get into the game and you're like, wow, these characters are really, really explicit, suggestive, but at the same time, it's the story is what really sells you on the game. In the first 30 minutes, I guarantee you the story is gonna make you go from to what just happened? I can't believe they just did that to that girl. Trust me, you will not be disappointed with this game. Unless, of course, you just really don't like idle games, in which case, sure. But this has a phenomenal story, one of the best, incredible voice acting. And like, just, you gotta think of it like a story rather than a game. Because for the most part, that's what it is due to the idle gameplay. But the idle gameplay also at a certain point, like chapter 2022, also requires you manually play it for certain encounters. Before we go any further, I do want to take a moment here to thank all of my incredible patrons over on Patreon and my YouTube channel members who allow for me to continue to do dedicated videos like this every single day. You guys are absolutely phenomenal, and I genuinely cannot thank you all enough for the support. Then we have Girls Frontline 2, which is honestly kind of like NIKKE with technically you could control your units in that, but the auto is now just so unbelievably broken that I have not had to actually manually control my character for characters for about 6 months. Seriously, it's essentially become an auto game. And that's okay, because let's be real, the story is decent, the voice acting is decent, but you play it for the dormitory. You play it for the character interactions. You play it for the character models in general, which are top tier. Musume is honestly a weird one because it just released and garnered critical acclaim. It's also a very different gacha game. It's like a life sim management, resource management gacha. And it's very complicated, very complex, very deep, and admittedly, it is a lot of fun. It does get repetitious, it does get monotonous and a little bit arduous at times to play through, especially if you suck at the game or suck at resource management. But at the same time, there's no other popular gacha game out right now that is remotely close to being like this. So, I mean, this makes it a game that's worth playing, or at the very least worth trying, purely because you probably haven't already. Another game that's worth trying, Blue Archive. Now, this does appeal to a very different demographic of player because you have to want to play as a little girl or play with little girls, because all of the cast of characters, although I will state a lot of these characters should not be referred to or classified as young children or teenagers even, because honestly, you look at some of the character models and you're like, they're just baiting you at this point. Like, they know what they're doing. They make the characters look 35, and then they're like, yeah, but they're really 14. Like, come on, let's be real. No. But otherwise, like, yeah, it appeals to a very certain demographic of player. It's different to Arknights, it's different to Wuwa, it's different to NIKKE. But the game itself is a lot of fun. Great combat, although it is mostly idle with the exception of your ability usage. The characters look fantastic, the animation is great, the story is kind of messed up as well. I think there's a recurring theme here in a lot of the gacha games that I really like, that I think are the best, and that is that they tend to be a little bit messed up, and I think that adds layers of depth to games. Brown Dust 2 is another clear example of this. This game is very, very fun, very lighthearted, but very deep and very complex. You understand this literally within the first hour of playing, because this is an incredibly narrative-driven gacha. It's a story-driven, narrative-driven, episode-driven gacha. Honestly, there really aren't many gacha games like this. And then you add on to the voice acting is good, but even beyond the voice acting, the characters. Like, genuinely, the characters for this game, the character models for this game are the most suggestive that you will find in the genre. There is not a single gacha game out there, even games like Azur Lane, cannot compete with the degeneracy of Brown Dust 2. Speaking of Azur Lane, that is one of the 3 most degenerate gacha games in the genre. It's also mostly idle. Not entirely, because you can technically move your characters a little bit and use certain things, but for the most part, you just click auto and it does it all for you. I've never hit a point in Azur Lane where I actually needed to control my characters, but it's because I was super casual with it. I always vastly overleveled and overpowered the content that I was actively engaged in. But this game is also arguably the most free-to-play friendly gacha game out there. If you're looking for free-to-play friendly gacha games, that right there, that's your choice. That is the gacha game you should be trying, because there does not exist a gacha game that is more free-to-play friendly than Azur Lane. That's because Azur Lane allows for you to recruit your characters without real money. So that right there, that is an immediate win. Reverse 1999 is, I think, probably the most narrative-heavy gacha that I've probably ever played. But that isn't a bad thing, because the story in this game is off the charts good. I don't know a single person that actually played Reverse 1999 and genuinely thought, man, that story sucked. Like, they didn't like the combat, they didn't like the voice acting, they didn't like the you know, like, presentation of the characters. But one thing everyone agreed on was, at the very worst, this game's story was still decent. And that is because this game's story is really freaking good. Like, top 3 in the entire gacha genre. And I've played hundreds of gacha games. I think the turn-based combat is very good. I think the voice acting is one of the best the genre has to offer. It has regional dialects, so everyone has individual accents that are accurate to the era or to the region they're from, like Italian, Spanish, Japanese, Russian, English, American, but British English. It is just so perfectly handled, and no other gacha game does this. And then finally, Aether Gazer. I think this is a worthy mention because the action combat in Aether Gazer is really fun. It's instant like Punishing Graven. It's slower than Punishing Graven, but allows for you to have 3 characters on the field at the same time, which not many other gacha games allow for you to do. So I think a good replacement, a good substitute, a good alternative to Punishing Graven, if you're not a fan of Punishing Graven, is Aether Gazer. I felt that this needed to be included because there are some people that just don't like Punishing Graven, and that's okay. Not everyone needs to. Aether Gazer's character models, also the waifus in this game are top tier. The males not so much, but the females, woo, you gotta check some of those out. And those right there are what I believe to be the best gacha games right now in 2025. These are the gacha games that you should be playing. If you're not playing these games, then maybe you don't have the greatest taste in gacha games. You know what? That's okay. Some people like bad games. Don't beat yourself up over it. I know you think that you just hit the end of the video, and technically, yeah, you have. And I know your first reaction is to close out of it at this juncture, but don't. No, instead, I urge you to take a moment here and click one of the videos on screen that are coming up in just a moment, so you remain up to date with everything going on in the gacha genre. Trust me, you are not going to regret doing so. Stay flaccid.